Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to our channel once again. I followed the Ketengela rally very closely, and I have bad news for Odinga and William Ruto. If they are not careful, this team is going to shame them in 2027. I'm coming back with that analysis later. But in this video, I also want us to talk about something which is emerging very strongly within the political circles. Uhuru Kenyatta's plan to destroy William Ruto in 2027. We all know that William Ruto shocked the entire country when he defeated the combined force of Uhuru and Raila in 2027. Because Uhuru Kenyatta had the deep state, which Raila Odinga had always lacked. Raila Odinga had the numbers. But at the end of the day, Wafula Chebukati announced William Ruto as the president. As we speak, William Ruto is almost completing his first term as the president of the Republic of Kenya. But that defeat by William Ruto did not sit well with Uhuru Kenyatta. And Uhuru Kenyatta has been planning to revenge.
I will hand over power peacefully, legally, and while smiling. But my leader is Baba Raila Odinga. Those celebrating now, who are promised heaven, will be crying 3 months from now. End of quote.
Was made that
Additionally, Uhuru continued his subtle attack on the Supreme Court's decision that upheld Ruto's victory, adding, and I quote, "Over 1.4 million people voted for me in 2017, more than Raila, and the Supreme Court threw out my election, saying numbers don't matter, but the process does. So, why the contradiction now when the majority victory is less?"
And Uhuru Kenyatta has been planning to revenge against William Ruto. Because Uhuru Kenyatta realized one thing, that the only reason why he lost was because he was betrayed by his close allies. People he entrusted as part of his deep state were actually working for William Samoei Arap Ruto. And Uhuru Kenyatta is now clearly on that mission. And one of the questions which Kenyans have been asking is, what interest is Uhuru Kenyatta having in 2027 political contest? The truth is, Uhuru wants to control politics. So in this video, I want to reveal to you guys how Uhuru Kenyatta is planning to defeat William Ruto in 2027. But there's something I keep on reminding you on this platform on many occasions, that William Ruto is not an ordinary politician. William Ruto is a shrewd politician. And therefore, as much as Uhuru Kenyatta is planning to defeat him, Ruto is also not sitting somewhere waiting to be defeated. So before we get into all those, for those who are watching this channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click the subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support. Because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how Uhuru Kenyatta is planning to defeat William Ruto in 2027. Number one, Uhuru Kenyatta is now taking it upon himself to unite the opposition. The truth of the matter is that if the opposition can unite, then they can deny William Ruto victory easily. But can the opposition unite? That is the biggest challenge. And the entry of Edwin Sifuna now is also complicating the equation for the opposition. But first of all, let us deal with the main issue Uhuru Kenyatta is dealing with in the opposition currently. There's Rigathi Gachagua There's Matiang'i, and of course there is also Kalonzo Musyoka. Uhuru is pushing for Matiang'i. Rigathi is pushing for Kalonzo. Kalonzo believes that it is his moment to run for the presidency. And of course, if you look at it critically, he's right. But Matiang'i is also saying that I'm the most popular, and therefore I must be on the ballot. In fact, in one of the dailies today, Matiang'i is quoted to have said that he will only accept a formula which is scientific and can be proven. So which means, and this is what I know, opinion polls have been conducted by all camps in the united opposition. And all of those opinion polls are suggesting that Matiang'i is ahead of Kalonzo. But Kalonzo, perceptionally, is also ready for the bid. So Uhuru is now trying to bring them together. And for Uhuru to succeed in that, he must convince Kalonzo, he must convince Matiang'i. I think Uhuru does not have a problem convincing Matiang'i and Kalonzo. His problem is how to deal with Rigathi Gachagua. And again, if you go and read the People's Daily today, they are reporting that Uhuru and Rigathi's handshake is just about to happen. So that is the first way Uhuru Kenyatta is planning to defeat these guys. That's number one, uniting the opposition. Number two, the Raila family factor in 2027 presidential elections in the Republic of Kenya. Uhuru Kenyatta supported Raila Odinga in the last election. Raila Odinga did not win. Then after that, Raila Odinga went and joined William Ruto through the broad-based arrangement. As we speak, ODM members are part of William Ruto's government. Raila Odinga passed on. And because of the death of Raila Odinga, it complicates the equation for William Ruto. Because Raila was ODM and ODM was Raila. If Raila Odinga was alive, the Ketengela rally today would not have happened. The Tononoka rally would not have happened. Raila would have just issued directives and his troops would have followed. So Ruto was banking on that moment. But Uhuru Kenyatta is now getting in. After the death of Raila Odinga, in fact, for those who remember, when Raila Odinga was buried on that day, Uhuru Kenyatta did not go back to Nairobi. Instead, Uhuru Kenyatta spent his night in Siaya. The next day morning, Uhuru Kenyatta woke up in Bondo. Uhuru Kenyatta woke up in Bondo. And according to sources, that is the moment Uhuru Kenyatta injected Mama Ida and Winnie and Raila Odinga family with a lot of stories. Because by that time, Uhuru Odinga had actually been appointed as the acting party leader. So, as we speak, the Odinga family, that is Raila and Uhuru's family, are the main problem in ODM party. And that's why, if you listen to Junet, he's blaming Uhuru. Why? Because Uhuru is being perceived to support Mama Ida and that other group. At the same time, if you talk to Orengo, he will tell you the problem in ODM is Ruto. Why? Because they believe it's Ruto who is supporting this other camp. And a divided ODM party is not good for William Ruto. Because after the departure of the mountain, Ruto needed a very strong ODM party. And remember, there is the dynasty versus hustlers narrative, which Ruto used in the last election. Today, Uhuru is reviving that dynasty versus hustlers. As a matter of fact, the dynasties are the people fighting William Ruto. And I can demonstrate to you, just today alone. Today alone, the people who are live streaming the Ketengela rally, K24. Who owns K24? Again, Standard, for the first time, was also airing them live. Who owns Standard? Moi family. So the only part of dynasty not here is the Odinga family. And now Uhuru is using the Raila family now as part of it. I don't know whether Mama Ida will play ball, but the only way Mama Ida can play ball is if she will decline that appointment. Number three, Uhuru is also crafting a very dangerous strategy, propaganda machinery. Because Uhuru realized that in the last election, he failed Raila. Raila was too honest. Raila believed in so many things. He never believed in lies. But Uhuru realized that in 2013, when he won, he had a serious propaganda team. That's where people like Itumbi emerged from, people like Bugoni. And they were being helped by some international lobbies. Again, in 2017, Uhuru Kenyatta realized that he had a lobby, a serious one, and a serious propaganda machine. In fact, in 2017, you would not tell anybody from the mountain that Raila Odinga is not a human being, and they would agree. The mountain believed in 2017 that Raila Odinga was a devil. That's why it was very difficult for them to accept Uhuru and Raila handshake. Because how do you convince someone that the guy you see there is not a human being, is a devil? Then, after 3 months after election, you see them shaking hands. It was very difficult. So currently, Uhuru Kenyatta is crafting a serious propaganda machinery, similar to what he had previously. You know, he had, was it Cambridge Analytica, for those who still remember, and he also had another lobby. Recently, he engaged the services of some Canadian company, which destroyed William Ruto's reputation at the international level. So this is the third strategy. I don't know how Ruto will be able to manage that. And number 4 is the deep state penetration. William Ruto is the king of infiltration. He was able to infiltrate. William Ruto was able to infiltrate right in the middle of Uhuru Kenyatta's core team of 5 people. So Uhuru had 5 people he believed in. And Ruto went and even penetrated them to an extent that anything they discussed, Ruto was getting instantly. Uhuru is also doing that currently. And that's why it's very difficult for William Ruto. Everything in this government is being leaked. And it's possible because you remember, Uhuru is a former president. He has so many people he appointed to government. As we speak, there are people who supported Ruto in the deep state, but are not comfortable with Ruto today. So they are feeding the right information. And lastly, Uhuru is planning to bring together his grassroots networks and deliver. That is something he never did for Raila. In fact, the only mistake Uhuru did for Raila was that he never really handed his networks to Raila. Maybe because William Ruto was able to penetrate his core team and therefore they advised him against. But Uhuru currently is planning to, but Uhuru Kenyatta is currently planning to mobilize his grassroots networks. Remember, Uhuru had a party called TNA with the structures. Some have left, but I know he can still place a phone call too. If, for example, Uhuru wants to organize a rally in Ketengela, the way he organized for these guys today, he knows how to do it. He has his networks there. If he wants to go to Kakamega, Uhuru can call someone. In fact, if Uhuru Kenyatta wants to get some information from Kwale, there's a phone call he can just place. So those networks of KANU, TNA, Jubilee, the administrators, people who are appointed, is planning to bring all those, consolidate them and deliver them to the united opposition. Let me ask you, do you think William Ruto will be able to withstand Uhuru Kenyatta's wrath this time? Let me wait and see. I'm waiting to read your comments. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.